The Baleharts' family left their home at Denver, Colorado to spend a weekend at Rocky Mountain National Park on July of 1938. They drove until they reached Roaring River and set up their camp there. Early on Saturday morning, the family had a breakfast and started hiking along the river, and soon they came across a beautiful view with lots of pine trees around. The valley they were staying has very steep walls on both sides, and the river runs down the center. After some time of enjoying nature, Mr. Baleharts realized he hadn't seen his son Albert for few minutes now. Albert was 4 years old at the time. They started searching for the boy, and the casual search soon started to get serious as the parents couldn't find their son and there wasn't much places for Albert to hide. A bit after, they called the authorities, and National Park Service with lots of volunteers started their search for Albert. One of the early assumptions was that Albert had fallen into the river and drowned. The search team brought in 4 canine dog teams to the scene to help with the search. The dog picked up the scent near where Albert was last seen and tracked it for 1.5 miles along the banks of Roaring River going uphill. There is also another story that says dogs tracked the scent to the river and stopped. The National Park System was so concerned about Albert being drowned that they attempted to empty the river. They obtained authority from Colorado Fish and Game Organization to divert the Roaring River with sandbags and used dynamites to blow 5 beaver dams to empty the river. The searchers never found Albert in the empty riverbank. At this point, the parents were so frustrated with the theory of their son being drowned that they started saying he was kidnapped. On July 7th, 5 days after the boy went missing, a searcher was looking through an abandoned cabin and found fresh bandages. The searcher remembered Albert's parents told the searchers that their son was wearing a bandage over his heels because his new boots had caused the blister. Also, FBI got involved in the case, and it wasn't clear why they got involved, as they never get themselves involved unless the case shows foul play was in work. There was no evidence that Albert had been abducted or the bandages that was found was his, but FBI decided to get involved anyway. The day Albert went missing, Eel says a married couple were walking on a roadway close to Mount Chapin, 6 miles west of where Albert went missing. The couple wasn't aware of Albert's disappearance or a search being conducted just few miles from them. As they were walking, they saw something very strange. Mr. Eels said he and his wife walked along Old Fall River until they got tired and decided to stop to rest. As they were resting and enjoying the nature, they looked up the mountain Chapin and saw a small boy sitting on a rock. When the couple climbed up to the boy, they said he disappeared. Mr. Eels said no child could get where he was seen without having assistance. Mr. Eels drove back to the park rangers and had an extensive interview with the authorities, and actually took them to the spot where he had seen the boy. The National Park Service was so convinced by Mr. Eels' story that they formed a search group and started searching Mount Chapin and an area that's called Devil's Nest. Following Albert's disappearance, other strange things started to happen around the area of Rocky Mountain National Park. On July 2nd, 1938, 29 days after Albert went missing, John Fuller was attempting to climb Long's Peak 16 miles from Mount Chapin where Albert was last seen. The 20-year-old John Fuller was climbing the mountain when he fell to his death. William Bruni, another student who was in the area with his friend, later stated he saw John Fuller earlier and later on he saw his body flying off the cliffs. 10 days after John Fuller's death, 20 years old Robert Watson was climbing a mountain 5 miles east of where Albert went missing when a rock slide killed him. 5 days after Robert Watson died, 18 years old Rowland Spencer was staying with a group at YMCA inside the Rocky Mountain National Park few miles apart from where Albert was last seen. An article states Robert was killed in a fall on Giant's Track Mountains. Unfortunately, Albert Beilharz was never found. 21 years old Raymond Ever, his dad and 2 friends went for a weekend fishing trip from their home in Washington Trace, Utah to the mountains of Uinta in August 6th of 1969. Their plan was to try different lakes in the area and see what they can catch. At noon of the same day, Raymond was fishing when his fishing line got tangled and he had to get back to camp to get a new one. He was returning to the camp when he disappeared. His father and friends noticed he hadn't come back and started searching the immediate area, and after not finding anything, they called the authorities. Searchers didn't find anything until 2 days later when they found a sheep herder in a remote location 7 miles north of the lake the group was fishing. He said he saw Raymond on Sunday 2 days after he disappeared. He said he gave Raymond directions to Island Lake. He offered him food and water, but he only accepted water. The search for Raymond was one of the longest searches in the history of Utah, which lasted for 4 weeks. The sheriff exhausted all possible avenues he could imagine looking for Raymond. Hundreds of volunteers, canine dogs, helicopters, horses and aircrafts didn't have any success. Raymond Ever was never found. Baldeschweiler family left their home in Lansing, Illinois for a day hike at Rocky Mountain in June of 1982. They were traveling with their 12-year-old son Robert. Robert was very fit and athletic, so the parents knew they would not have any problem with him during the hike. Once they arrived at the Rocky Mountain National Park, they decided to hike 12,000-foot flat-top mountain. The trail of this mountain was well traveled and easy to follow, and it was only 1.9 miles from start to finish. No special equipment or ability is needed to climb the mountain. Once they started their hike, Robert accelerated and was always at the front of the group. Nothing special happened during the hike. The group saw a couple of other hikers who were going up and down, and nothing was out of the ordinary. As they got closer to the summit, black clouds started to show up and it appeared a storm was coming. At this point, the couple couldn't see their son. They started walking faster, but still had no success. A man coming down the mountain was later questioned and confirmed he saw the boy hiking alone and was concerned about him because the storm was close. Once the couple reached the summit and didn't see their son, they got concerned and returned back down to notify the authorities. As the parents were notifying the authorities, a heavy rain started to pour down. The emergency crew immediately started their search and looked for the possible locations Robert could be. On the next 6 days, the Rocky Mountain National Park saw one of its largest search to date. A total of 250 participated in the search. 2 helicopters were brought in and over $114,000 were expended in 7 days to look for Robert. At one point, searchers were 10 feet apart as they walked the mountain. The searchers didn't find a single clue of Robert and called off the search on 7th day. The spokesperson of the search and rescue team was puzzled with not finding anything. On July 12th, 13 days after Robert went missing, some hikers on Flattop Mountain saw a bloody visor in the snow and reported it to rangers. Two rangers went to check on the finding and saw the body of Robert on a steep slope on the mountain. The body was found on 11,200 feet in elevation. The boy was found on a rock in an area that was previously searched. There were some speculation that Robert died from a fall. Previously, National Park Service stated they were searching between 9,000 to 11,000 feet in elevation because they believed Robert wouldn't go higher. They found the body at 11,200 feet, which means if he fell to his death, he must have been higher in elevation. But Robert was a 12 years old boy and he knew the route to safety is downhill and not uphill. With a storm hitting the area, he had no reason to keep going uphill. What happened to Robert remains a mystery to this day.